Good morning. Today we are reviewing for our Chapter 7 test. So we're learning or reviewing how to do our 3 ways to solve systems of equations by graphing, by substitution, and by elimination. So we're going to start by graphing 2 systems or 2 lines. In order to graph, we need to have both equations solved for y. If you want to use another method to check your answer, you can, but you need to actually graph it because it says solved by graphing. I'm going to solve this bottom one first because it's easy to solve right below. The opposite of adding 3x would be subtracting 3x. So those eliminate. And I have 2y equal to negative 3x plus 2. And then we need to get rid of the 2, so divide everything by 2 because they're multiplied, they're touching. And so we will get 2 over 2, which is just 1y, or just y. 3 divided by 2 we can't simplify, so leave it as 3 over 2x. And then plus 2 divided by 2, which is 1. I'm going to wait to graph that. I'm going to solve this one as well. X minus y equal to 9. So if I solve this for y, this is really a 1x, so I'm going to move that over to the other side, subtract 1x. Those eliminate, so I have a negative y, don't forget the negative, equals negative 1x, and then that's a positive 9. And then last, the opposite, to get rid of this negative 1 would be to divide by negative 1. So our answer will be y equals, these two negatives make a positive 1x, and then 9 divided by negative 1 is negative 9. So we need to figure out where these 2 lines cross. So I'm going to start by graphing this one. It's in the form y equals mx plus b, so I'm going to begin at positive 1 on my y-axis. Positive 1. And my slope is negative 3 over 2, meaning we're going down 3 and 2 to the right. Down 3, 2 to the right. Or up 3, 2 to the left. Up 3, 2 to the left. And draw your line through. So there's our first line. We need to now graph the second one, which is also in the form y equals mx plus b. So we're going to begin at negative 9, which is down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And our slope is 1, or 1 over 1. So rise 1, run 1. Oh, you can see right there, that's where our 2 lines are going to cross. Up and right, or down and left. So we need to actually write out our answer. Where these 2 points cross right there, our answer in terms of x and y. X first to the right, we're going 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because we're going down, that's a negative 5. So there's our answer. Alright, let's do one more like this. We need to solve for y. So again, I'm going to solve the bottom one first just because there's space to solve it. So to move the 2x, the opposite would be subtracting 2x. So those eliminate. So then we have 4y equals, and then there's a negative 2x here, so we have negative 2x minus 16. And then to get rid of this multiplying by 4, we have to divide by 4, divide by 4, divide by 4. So 4 over 4 eliminates, and we have y equals 2 over 4 we can simplify if we divide both of these by 2. We get negative 1 over 2x. And then on the end we have minus 16 divided by 4, which is 4. Second equation I'm going to rewrite down here as well. Negative 3x minus y equal to negative 1. So I need to get y by itself, so I'm going to add 3x to the other side. So I'm left with a negative y, don't forget the negative, and then 3x minus 1. And that is a negative 1, so we need to get rid of it by dividing by negative 1. So those eliminate, and I have y equals 3 divided by negative 1 is negative 3x, and then here two negatives make a positive 1. So I'm going to graph this one up here first. It's in the form y equals mx plus b, so I'm going to begin on my y-axis at negative 4. And then my slope is down 1 and 2 to the right. Negative 1 over 2. Down 1, 1, 2 to the right. Down 1 over 1, 2. Down 1, 1, 2. Or the opposite, up and left 2. Up and left 2. And draw your line through that one. And our second equation, we're beginning at a plus 1. And my slope is negative 3 over 1. Be careful, a lot of you have been doing your slopes backwards on these. Negative 3 is down 3, and then positive 1 is to the right. Down 3, 1 to the right. That's where our points are going to cross, or our lines are going to cross. We can also go up 3 and 1 to the left. If you're not sure if you did your line correctly, walk from left to right. If I was going to walk across this, I'd be going downhill, which is exactly what we wanted right here. So our answer or solution where these 2 points cross, x comma y, x first we went 1, 2 to the right, and then we went down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So negative 5. Next, we're going to learn our second, or review our second method, which is substitution. We need to have x or y all by itself. This first one has y by itself, so I'm going to take this piece of information and plug it in the second equation for y. So it says x, I'm going to rewrite the second equation, plus 2 times y, but y is really 2x minus 7, equals 1. So I'm going to solve this. I need to distribute here. This is really a 1x, so I'm going to write 1x. 2 times 2 is 4, so 4x. And then 2 times negative 7 is negative 14. So we need to combine our like terms. So total we have 5x minus 14 equal to 1. So get rid of your addition and subtraction first. I'm going to have to get rid of that 14. Adding 14. So we have 5x equals 15. And then last, divide by 5. So we have x equal to 15 divided by 5, which is 3. We do need to list our answer as a point, x comma y. So I know x is 3, so we need to plug that back in and find y. I'm going to plug it back in to the first equation. If you want to use the second one, that's fine too. So it says y equals 2 times x, which is 3, and then minus 7. Well, 2 times 3 is 6. So 6 minus 7 is negative 1. So I know now y is negative 1. This second problem, neither x nor y is by itself, so we need to get x or y by itself. You could choose the first one to get x by itself, that would be easy, or x or y in the second equation. I'm going to choose this second equation and get x by itself because it's already a positive. This y would be negative, we'd have to get rid of that negative as well. So I'm just going to move this y, add y over to the other side. So I would have x equals y plus 4. So now that I have a letter all by itself, I'm going to plug this in to the first equation for x. So let's rewrite this. It says x, which is really y plus 4, then plus 4y equal to 9. I rewrote this equation down here. So I'm going to combine my like terms. This is really a 1y, so 1 plus 4 again happens to be 5y, plus 4 equal to 9. get rid of your addition and subtraction first. So I'm going to subtract 4. So I have 5y equal to, and 9 minus 4 is 5. Last, divide by 5, the opposite of multiplying right here. 5 divided by 5 is 1. So I know what y is. I need to plug it back in and find x. I'm going to plug it into this equation right here because it already has x by itself. So it says x equals y plus 4, so 1 plus 4. So we know x is now 5. So that was substitution. Make sure you remember how to do those because there will be a couple on your test like that. The third method we learned was elimination, where we add or subtract our equations from each other. In order to do that, we need x and y on the same side of the equals. So right now I need to move this y over to be with the x's, so I'm really going to subtract y on both sides. I'm just going to rewrite it right below. So I'm going to have 3x minus y equals 1. Now I can add or subtract these equations together. Oops, that was not a very straight line. So I need to eliminate either the x's or the y's. The y's are both 1s right now. I'm ignoring this equation because I rewrote it down here. The y's are both 1s, but they're not going to eliminate because they're both negative. So I need one to be a positive, so instead of adding, I'm going to subtract. If I subtract here, I have to subtract here, which makes it positive, and now subtracting 1. So combine these together. 2 minus 3 is now negative 1x. 1 minus 1 goes away, and 9 minus 1 is 8. So if I solve this, just divide by negative 1. X is a negative 8. And then we need to plug it back in to find y. I'm going to use this top equation, or it's really the bottom one, but we rewrote the other one. I'm going to write 2x, and x is negative 8, minus y equals 9. So this is 8 times 2 is 16, so negative 16 minus y equal to 9. So we want y by itself, so I'm going to get rid of that 16 by adding 16. We have negative y. And then 16 plus 9 more is going to give me 25. But then we need to get rid of that negative 1, so I'm going to divide by negative 1. So y is a negative 25. So our answer then in terms of x and y would be negative 8, comma, y, which is negative 25. I would suggest trying this next one on your own and then click play to see if you got it right. These ones are already set up in standard form, x, y, and numbers, so we're going to add these together. However, the x's won't eliminate, nor the y's, because the y's are both positive. So this one we also need to, instead of adding, we're going to subtract. Subtract the entire equation. So subtracting here makes really a positive. This becomes a negative, and this becomes a negative. So now we have 1x plus 2x is 3x. 7 minus 7 is gone, eliminated. And then 12 minus 18 is a negative 6. More negatives there. So last, just divide by 3. And we get x equal to a negative 6 divided by 3, which is 2. So we need to plug that back in to find y. I'm going to use the top equation. It says x, or 1x, which is negative 2. Then it says plus 7y equal to 12. So I need y by itself, so get rid of your addition and subtraction. I'm going to add 2. And if you did want to put that 1 there, you could multiply this by 1, but it's not going to do anything to that number, so that's why I didn't even put the multiply by 1. So we have 7y equal to now 14. And if I divide by 7, 14 divided by 7 is 2. So my answer, x comma y, x is negative 2, and y is positive 2. We did a couple more using elimination, but these ones we have to multiply first because our x's and our y's aren't going to eliminate, so we need to multiply to get rid of them. It doesn't matter which ones you get rid of. I might choose the y's because right now they're smaller numbers. Well, 5 and 7, 6 and 8, doesn't really matter. So 5 and 7 both multiply to make 35. So I'm going to multiply this top equation by 5 and the bottom equation by 7 in order to make them both a 35. However, they're both negative right now, so we need one to be a positive. So we're really going to subtract so those two negatives become a positive. So I'm going to multiply all of these by 5. So 8 times 5 is 40x. 5 times negative 7 is negative 35y. Don't forget the third number way over here. 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. On the bottom, everything gets multiplied by negative 7. So 6 times 7 is 42x, but they're negative now because there's a negative. A negative times a negative makes a positive 35y. And again, a negative times a negative makes a positive 7 times 1 is just 7. Now I can add these up because now my y's will eliminate. They're both 35, one's positive and one's negative. So 40 minus 42, there's more negatives. It's negative 2x. 15 minus 7, again there's more negatives. 15 minus 7 will give me 8. And then divide both sides by negative 2. We get x equals a positive now 4. So let's plug it back in to find the other letter. Doesn't really matter which one. I'm going to maybe pick the bottom equation here, smaller numbers. So it says 6x, and x is 4, minus 5y equal to negative 1. Well, 6 times 4 is 24. So I'm going to get rid of that positive 24 by subtracting 24. So those are gone. I have negative 5y. Same sign, add them all together. They're all negatives. That's a negative 25. And then divide by negative 5. Those eliminate, and we get y equals, here two negatives make a positive. 25 divided by 5 is 5. So my answer is 4, 5, x, y. Alright, next one here, we need x and y on the same side, so we need to move this one over to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 5y. So I'm going to rewrite this down below. We have 3x minus 5y, those are gone now, equals a negative 7. So again, I'm just going to kind of cross this out because we don't care about that anymore. And now we have these two equations. These two are not set up to eliminate because we have 3 and 4 and 5 and 7. You can't multiply there. I'd rather multiply and get 12 than 5 times 7 is 35. Again, that was a big number. So in order for the x's to go away, they both have to be 12 because 3 times 4 is 12. So I'm going to multiply the top one by 3 and the bottom one by 4. Double check to make sure they're opposites. One's already negative and one's already positive, so they will eliminate. So let's distribute this. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12x. We're not adding up yet, so we don't really need that line there yet. 3 times 7 is 21y, and 3 times 8 is 24. On the bottom, multiply everything by 4, positive 12x. 4 times negative 5 is negative 20y, and 4 times negative 7, 4 times 7 is 28, so that's a negative. Now that we've multiplied each of those, we can eliminate. So our 12s go away. 21 minus 20 is just 1y, or just y. We don't really need the 1. 24 minus 28, there's more negatives. 28 minus 24 is just 4. So we have y equals negative 4. I'm going to use, doesn't really matter. I'm going to use the bottom one. to rewrite, if you want to use the top one, you'll get the same answer. It says 3x minus 5 times y, which is negative 4, equal to negative 7. So a negative times a negative here makes a positive 20. So if I get rid of that 20 by subtracting 20, move it to the other side, I will have 3x equal to, and these are all negatives, negative 27, and then last divide by 3. So x is going to be a negative 27 divided by 3 is just negative 9. So my answer in terms of x and y, x is negative 9 and y is negative 4. So that is my answer. You do need to write it as a point to show me where your two lines would cross if you were to graph them. So here's a word problem. It says you pay $24.50 for 10 gallons of gas and 1 quart of oil at a gas station. Your friend pays $22 for the same 8 gallons of gas and 2 quarts of the same oil. Find the cost of 1 quart of oil. So we have two variables, or two things we don't know. We don't know the cost of gas, and we don't know the cost of oil. So I'm going to just label those x and y. Because we're writing systems of equations, we're going to need two equations. So I'm going to write one equation for you and one for your friend. So you have a total of $24.50. And we have two things we have to pay for. 10 gallons of gas, however much that costs, so 10 times the cost of gas, plus 1 quart of oil, which is y. And then your friend pays $22 for only 8 gallons of gas, so 8 times x, because that's the cost for gas. And your friend gets 2 quarts of oil, 2 times y. So now we have two equations. We can use whichever method we would like to solve. This one looks nice to eliminate because they're in standard form, but we're going to have to multiply this first equation. I would multiply it by 2 so that these are both 2 y's. However, one needs to be a negative so they eliminate. So I'm going to distribute this. I'm going to write it down below here. That's going to give me negative 20x minus 2y, and then equals a negative, well, 2450 times 2. If you're not sure, add them up. Give you $49. So a negative 49. So now we have two equations we can add together because we don't need that one anymore. We multiplied it by 2. So these y's are going to eliminate because they're both 2's. One's positive and one's negative. 8 minus 20 will give me a negative, there's more negatives, negative 12x. And then 22 minus 49, there's way more negatives. Different side and subtract, so 9 minus 2 will give me 7. 4 minus 2 is 2, so 27. That makes sense because 27 and 22 will give me 49. And then I'm going to have to divide by negative 12. So we have x equals, now two negatives make a positive, and I'm going to plug that in my calculator. My calculator tells me 2.25 or $2.25 for x, which is gas. But they want to know what is the cost of 1 quart of oil, so we need to figure out what y is. So I'm going to plug this back into, I'm going to pick the top equation here. So I have 8x, but x is really 2.25, plus 2y equal to 22. So I'm going to multiply 8 times 2.25. In my calculator, that gave me a nice 18. If you want to do 8 times 2 is 16, and then 8 quarters would be $4. That would, 8 quarters is $2, not $4. That would add up. 16 plus 2 more is 18. There we go. So solve for y, I'm going to subtract 18. Those eliminate, and we have 2y And then 18 and 22. 22 minus 18 should give me 4. And then divide by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So a quart of oil only cost $2. Alright, these next couple, we need to tell whether the linear system has one solution, meaning you get x equals a number, or y equals a number. No solution, meaning that you would have like 8 equals 3, or something like that. Or infinitely many solutions, when you would have like 0 equals 0, or 4 equals 4. So this first one is not set up to eliminate, so I would have to multiply one or both of these equations. I'm going to multiply to get rid of the y's, because they're smaller numbers. So I'd multiply the top one by 3 and the bottom one by 2. But they're both negative, so we need to multiply one of them by a negative number. So here we have 30x minus 6y, and then 3 times 14 should give me 42. And on the bottom, 2 times 15 is negative 30x. Negative 2 times a negative 3 makes a positive 6. And negative 2 times 21 gives me a negative, we're going to double it, 42. So now we can eliminate these. Actually, the x's go away and the y's go away because they're both opposites. Now we have 0. 42 minus 42 is also 0. So because they're the same number, that means it's really the same line if we were to graph it. So we have infinitely many solutions. This second one is already set up to eliminate, so I can just add my equations together because the y's will go away, negative and positive. So we'd have 6x, and add these up, that would give me 8 and 4, 48. So if I divide by 6, 6 times 8 would give me 48. So I know x is 8. I don't need to plug it back in because it just says to tell how many solutions there's going to be. I could find y, which means that my point xy would be one solution where my two lines would cross. One more word problem here. It says one admission to a roller skating rink costs X dollars. Okay, so roller skating is X. And renting a pair of skates costs Y dollars. So skates cost Y. One group pays $243 for admission for 36 people and 21 skate rentals. Another group, so some separate here, another group pays $81 for admission for 12 people and 7 skate rentals. How much is the cost of one admission to the roller skating rink? So we have two groups, Group A and Group B. So Group A, I'm just going to say it's the first one, pays $243 total for two things, 36 people and only 21 needed skates. Maybe some people are watching or some people had their own. So 36 people, and to get in, the admission costs X dollars. So 36 times X number of people, plus 21 skate rentals, which cost Y dollars. Then the second group, must have been less of them, yep, only 12 people, cost a total of $81. So 12 people here times the cost of admission, plus only 7 of them needed skates, so 7 times Y. So we need to figure out what's X and what's Y. So we can't just add these up right away. We need to multiply one or both of our equations. Well, if I just look at this bottom equation, I can multiply this equation. 7 times 3 would give me 21, but one of them has to be a negative, so maybe a negative 3. So I'm going to multiply all of these by negative 3. We'd have 3 times 12 is going to give me negative 36x. Negative 3 times 7 is negative 21y. And then 81 times 3, negative 3. If I plug that in my calculator, it's actually going to give me 243. So this top equation didn't change. 36x plus 21y equal to 243. So when I add those up, well, 36 minus 36 is 0, 0, 0. So this one would be is there is not enough information. You need to show some work to prove that there's not enough information. You cannot just write that. All right, there's 2 questions left. We need to solve a couple systems of inequalities. So this first one, we need to solve for y in order to graph this. So I'm going to move this 1x over to the other side. I'm going to subtract 1x. And so we would have y is less than or equal to negative 1x plus 10. All I did was take the 1x and moved it over to the other side here of this line. So if I graph this, I'm going to maybe graph as I go here. This one begins on my y-axis at 10, which is right at the top. And my slope is down 1 and 1 to the right. Down 1 and 1 to the right. So down and right. So be careful now. Reminder that with the equal to, we have solid lines. If you don't, you have a dashed. I'll write that over here. Dashed. So this one has the equal to, so we need a solid line. And then our arrows tell us which way we are going to shade. If we have an L, it's going to be below for less than. If we have greater than, it'll be above. So this one has an L for less than, so I'm just going to put some arrows here that will be pointing down. This second equation I'm going to rewrite so I can solve it. X minus y is greater than or equal to negative 2. So this is a 1x. I'm going to move that over to the other side, subtract 1x. So I have negative y is greater than or equal to, write your x's first, negative 1x minus 2. And then we have a 1 there. It's really a negative 1, so to get rid of that we need to divide by negative 1. So remember, when you divide by a negative, your sign flips. So now we have it the other direction. We have y is less than or equal to. 2 negatives there make a positive 1x. And again, 2 negatives make a positive. 2 divided by 1 is 2. So this one I'm actually going to do in red here. So I'm beginning at 2, up 1, 2. And my slope is 1 or 1 over 1. Rise 1, run 1, up and right, up and right. Or down and left, down and left. This one also is a solid line because it has the equal to. And then our symbol, because we flipped it, it's now less than it was greater than. So less than will be below. And then finally, our third line, don't forget about this one over here. We didn't do anything with this one yet. That means we're going to cross the y-axis at 2. So here's our y-axis, crossing at 2 right there. If we're going to cross, it means we're going through it left to right. So I'm going to draw my horizontal line right across, through at 2. These three all happen to be solid lines. They all have the equal to. So I'm going to make this a solid line as well. And then this symbol, it's not a less than, it's greater than, which means we're shading above this one. So you could have shaded all three as you went, or think now, where do all three arrows point? And some of you might be easily able to see they all point to this middle section. The red and the blue are down, and the green is up. So that would be our answer. This third one you do need to pay attention to. It says In a marching band competition, scoring is based on a musical evaluation and a visual evaluation, meaning evaluation how they're scoring you, how they're rating you. The musical evaluation score cannot exceed 60 points. The visual evaluation score cannot exceed 40 points. Write and graph a system of inequalities for the scores a marching band can receive. So it doesn't say which is which, so I'm just going to say X is for musical and Y is for visual. So X is going to be musical and Y is going to be visual. So it says the musical, or X, cannot exceed 60. So can we have less than or greater than 60? Well, it can't exceed or go past 60, so we have to have less than or equal to 60. We could be exactly 60, just can't go above it, can't exceed it. So X has to be less than or equal to 60. And then Y has to, the visual evaluation score cannot exceed 40 points. So again, Y has to be less than or equal to 40. We can assume that we can't score negative points. If you did not want to assume that, you would say X would also have to be greater than or equal to 0, and Y would have to be greater than or equal to 0 to show that you can't have negative numbers. You can't score negative points. Okay? So to get to 60 and 40, maybe you go by tens. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. And same here, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. So first, I'm going to graph X has to be less than or equal to 60. Well, that means we're crossing the x-axis at 60. So here's 60. We're going to cross through. We're going to go vertical, straight up and down. So this line is going to go this way. And that's a solid line because there's the equal to. And then our visual, Y, cannot exceed 40. So we're going to cross the y-axis at 40. Here's 40. Can't go any higher than it. So we're going to go through Y at 40. Also a solid line. One thing I forgot to do is draw my arrows. Less than 60, well, less than 60 would be 50, 40, so this direction. And then less than 40 here would be below. So you can see where the arrows are going to be pointing in this rectangular area. However, if you wanted to graph these two, that would be going above and beyond, meaning that X is greater than 0. So here's X is 0, and we cross through when X is 0, so this would be a vertical line crossing through when X is 0. It's greater than 0, so to the right. Or in the same way, we could graph when Y is greater than 0. So here's when Y is 0. If we're going to cut through Y going left to right, that would be this direction. If Y is greater than 0, that would be above. So our answers would be in the middle area there. Again, you don't need these two, but it would help if you would like to go above and beyond. Alright, your homework is out of the book. If you have questions, let me know. I know this was a very long lesson, but there was a lot covered in this chapter.